Hey everybody, Abby here from Hula Monsters and Hula Fit, and today I am here to talk to you about all things hoop. I'm talking handmade hoops, I'm talking weighted hoops, I am talking plastic store-bought toy hoops. I'm going to go through the differences of each, what hoop is going to be best for beginners, and why hoop sizing matters so very much if you are interested in learning the art of hoop dance. But first, a real quick intro, a little bit about me so you can understand why I'm so passionate about this subject and why you should even listen to me. I am the creator of Hula Monsters, which is Florida's first full-service hoop dance company. We do everything from music festivals to craft shows, vendor events, where I sell my handcrafted hula hoops. I am also a professional hula hoop dancer, and I have been teaching the art of hula hoop fitness for about 13 years now. I also run the oldest hula hoop shop on Etsy, and I've been hand making hula hoops since 2007. I'm also the co-creator of Hula Fit, which is the only American Council on Exercise approved hula hoop fitness program in the country. There's nothing I love more than supporting people on their health and wellness journeys using handcrafted hula hoops. I hold 7 different fitness certifications and have been training hula hoop fitness instructors since 2012 through my online and live courses. I've been featured as a hoop dance expert in a multitude of media outlets, and it's always awesome when I have the opportunity to educate people on the health and wellness benefits of modern day hoop dance. It's been really exciting to see how we can get more hula hoop fitness classes in different places all over the country. And I'm on a mission to educate people on the benefits of hula hoop fitness and what's needed to teach safe and effective hula hoop fitness classes. I also run a hula hoop performance troupe, and we have been fortunate enough to work with the NFL. Go Buccaneers, they just won the Super Bowl, along with Major League Baseball, Cirque du Soleil. We perform with bands all over the country, as you see me fire dancing to Smash Mouth. Remember them from the 90s? So it's been a pretty exciting and fun journey running this little business of mine. And hula hooping is something that has changed my life and my students' lives in more ways than I can count, and that's why this video today is so very important, because it starts with the hula hoops themselves. So today I am going to talk to you all about hoop sizing, what's needed for hula hoop fitness, clear up some misconceptions, and also go through every kind of hula hoop under the sun to help set you up for success. So let's do it. Okay, my friends, let's get into it. So I'm going to start off by going over the hoops that I do recommend, and then I'm going to talk about the hoops I don't recommend and why I don't recommend them. So the first thing you need to know is that hoop sizing is based on height, body type, skill level, and style of hooping. So different hoops work for different people, and we want to make sure that you're in the right size hoop for you so that you can be set up for success. I also want you to think about this, right? Like, let's say you walk into a department store, you are on the hunt for the perfect outfit, and you head over to the toddler section. You find the outfit that you love, but it doesn't fit, and then you get frustrated. That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So it's because the size doesn't work out. And the same is true for hoop sizing. It needs to fit you, and it needs to fit your style in order to be effective and for you to be able to accomplish your goals. So don't be a toddler hooper, get the right size hoop. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the differences. Okay, I've got about 20 different hoops with me today, and I'm going to go through the different kinds of hula hoops that are available. I'm going to talk about the ones I recommend first, and then we will slowly move into the ones I don't recommend, and I will tell you why. The first thing you need to know is that hoop sizing matters so much. Having the right size hoop can make the difference in terms of whether you love hoop dance and you really get into the art form, or you say, it's not for me. A lot of times people think hooping isn't for them because they don't have the right size hoop. So this is why this video is so very important and something I've wanted to create for a really long time for you guys to explain the differences and why different hoops work for different people. Also, I would start by watching my how to determine your hoop size video. That's where I break it down in just 3 minutes, kind of the different styles that are most popular and why different sizes kind of perform in different ways. So, you know, the main things you want to think about is the bigger the hoop, the slower it spins, which makes it easier to use for on-body hooping. For off-body hooping, really small, lightweight hoops work great. And then we're gonna talk about the fitness hoops that are mass marketed and mass produced that you might find in the sports stores or on Amazon, and why those might not be the best option, okay? So let's talk about the hoops that I recommend first. In my Etsy shop, I sell 3 different kinds of beginner hoops. These are made out of PE or polyethylene tubing. Yes, we use irrigation tubing to hand make our hula hoops, and we hand make them because we're able to size them specifically to the individual's wants, style, needs, and also the kind of hooping they want to do. So if you're really inspired by off-body technical hooping, you're probably going to go for a smaller, lighter hoop. If you want to start with the basics of on-body hooping, which I highly recommend, then you're probably going to want to start with a bigger, slower moving hoop. And we also put grip tape on those hoops, which help them stick to the body to keep them spinning, okay? So the first kind and the most popular for adult beginners is the standard weight hula hoop. If you want to get technical about it, this is the 160 PSI hoop in PE tubing, which is the polyethylene that I just spoke about. So this hoop is going to weigh under 2 pounds, just under 2 pounds. I don't think anybody needs a hoop that weighs over 2 pounds, and I'll tell you why in a moment. But this hoop is a great one. It's got a lot of good grip tape on it, which is going to help it stick to the body to keep it spinning. If you are of average build or fuller figured adult beginner, this is going to be a great place for you to start. The standard weight hoop. Ideally, you're going to want a hoop that comes between belly button and rib cage when you hold it up in front of you. If you're an adult beginner that's fuller figured, the diameter matters a lot. You're going to want to come bigger, like up to the rib cage. So you can take a bit of measuring tape, kind of stick it on the bottom of your shoe, pull it up and see what that measurement is, and that's going to help you determine what size would be great to start. If you're a more athletic build, then you're going to want closer to the belly button. To give you a point of reference, I am 5'6", and a 39-inch hoop to 40-inch hoop comes right at about belly button level for me. So this would be a great place to start. Person of average build, adult beginner, okay? So I'm going to take this hula hoop and kind of show you nice slow rotation. I'm able to learn my basic moves like dancing with the hoop, walking with the hoop. Things like shoulder hooping is really great with the big, slow moving hoop. And all of your foundations can be accomplished with this guy. I'll be honest with you, it's also really great for strength training. If you're working on moves like isolations and you want to add some squats, this does everything you need it to do as an adult beginner, all right? Let's say though that you're not of average build or fuller figured and you're a beginner adult hooper. What should you start with? Well, I call that the mid-weight hoop. So if you're slender and you want to get into hooping, you can go a little bit smaller. Let's say you're very petite and you don't need something even, a pound and a half is going to be too heavy for you. Then you're going to want to go with something a little lighter and smaller. So this is what I consider the mid-weight hoop. It's the PE polyethylene tubing at 100 PSI. Just so you know, when we talk about these measurements, it really has nothing to do with the hula hooping itself. This is just a measurement in terms of the product. So we're talking about the 100 PSI is a pressure measurement for irrigation tubing. So if you've been searching for a hoop and you don't really understand what all of this, 100, 160 means, it's talking about the inner wall thickness of the tubing itself, and it's a pressure measurement for irrigation tubing. So don't get, all worked up about that. Don't let it confuse you. Just know that you're looking for a hoop that's going to be best for you based on your height, body type, skill level, and flow style. So back to this one, the mid-weight hoop. It's a little bit lighter. This one's going to weigh just about a pound, maybe a little less depending on the tape job. So it's going to move a little bit faster, and this is also going to be good for somebody who is very slender, very petite. This would be a great beginner hoop to master those same on-body foundational moves, learning how to dance, move, do all of those really cool tricks like on-body hooping, leg hooping. We can do all of that with our mid-weight hoop. Also, this would be a wonderful option for somebody who's been hooping for a little while that wants to size down and get into something that's a little bit lighter and that's going to provide a bit more of a challenge for them. Okay, continuing on with the PE tubing, that polyethylene tubing that is very popular for beginner hoopers, we are going to talk about the 125 PSI lightweight hoop is what I call it in my Etsy shop, and that's this guy. So this is what I use for the kids hoops. Whenever I teach kids classes or kids workshops, we use this 1/2 inch, 125 PSI. It is the perfect tubing and material for the children. And the thing about this is that it is pretty bouncy. This is not to say that this wouldn't work for a beginner or for an adult. I would say not for a beginner though. You'd want to make sure that you have a little bit of experience under your belt, because remember, whenever we get into the lighter weight material and we get into smaller diameters, we're getting a faster rotation, which also means better cardio. So the thing to think about when it comes to hoop sizing is that we tend to size down over time. We start off with a hoop that is going to enable us to get the foundations down, dancing with the hoops, spinning on the waist, doing our recoveries, shoulder hooping, leg hooping, all of that good stuff. And then it's a progression. Over time, we'll start to go a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter. And eventually, you might choose to get something like this, or even move into a different material, which I'm going to talk about momentarily. The other thing to think about is that when it comes to diameter and material, the pairing of those two things is also very important. So for example, I wouldn't want a very heavy hoop at a very small diameter. That doesn't work very well. It's very awkward in terms of sizing. So I would say if you're choosing a hoop that is the standard weight or the mid-weight adult beginner hoop, then I would try to think about going 36 inches or larger. The biggest hoop I really make is 45 inches in diameter, and that's very large. That comes up to about my chin when I hold it in front of me. So bigger diameters work best with these heavier weight PE materials. And then as we tend to go into smaller diameters, then we want to go with like I said, the 1/2 inch, 125 PSI, or we can get into even other materials that I'm going to speak about momentarily. So again, beginner, intermediate, advanced, or kids. All right, that's kind of how I'm going to break it down for this video. So this is actually pretty interesting, and I get a lot of questions about this in my Etsy shop. The inner wall thickness that we talked about, the 160 PSI, which is the first hoop that we spoke about, the 100 PSI, which was the mid-weight hoop, and now we have 125 PSI, which is the lightweight hoop. And people ask me a lot of times, well, shouldn't the 100 be lighter than the 125? Yes and no. So even though the thickness of the tubing, or the inner wall thickness of the tubing is a little bit more defined with the 125 PSI, this lightweight hoop that I'm about to discuss, it's also a skinnier material. So 1/2 inch is what it's called. So when I hold these up together, and excuse the fact that they're a little beat up, I do a lot of workshops and events where people borrow the hoops and they get dropped. So you can see these two, the 160 in the middle and the 100 to the pink one here, these look the same, but they feel a little bit differently. This one is heavier, this one's a little bit lighter, this pink one, and then this one is skinnier, as you can tell. So this means that this is also going to end up being lighter when it's all said and done. Speaking about advanced hoops and also hoops that we can kind of progress towards with time, there are other materials we can talk about. We have HDPE, which I actually love HDPE. I think it's a really, really great material. It's a little stiffer than the PE tubing, but not as stiff as Polypro, which I'm going to speak about next. I think that this is a really awesome material, actually, HDPE. So PE and HDPE are pretty similar, especially when we talk about like the mid-weight, but they're also described differently, and I don't want to confuse anybody with the technicalities of this. So if you have questions about HDPE, you can always message me on Etsy or comment below on this video, and I'm happy to explain. But I want you to know that HDPE does come in a variety of sizes, thicknesses, and everything can be customized for the individual too. So, but there is a bit of a discrepancy in terms of how it's explained. For example, while this is considered 1 inch in HDPE, it looks exactly the same as the 3/4 inch in the PE, which is why it can get a little confusing and technical for people when they are shopping for their first hoop. So that's why I encourage questions whenever I'm selling hoops out at the market, or if I am on Etsy, I tell people to message me and I'm happy to answer their specific questions. Okay, moving on with the handmade hoops, we're going to talk about Polypro next. Polypro is actually a very, very popular kind of material, and a lot of times this is what people progress towards in their hooping journey. It's a really great advanced level hoop. It's going to be wonderful for your isolations, for your body rolls, for your optical illusion technique, right? For fast style hooping. I'm talking breaks, reverses, ninja style. All of this happens a lot of times with the Polypro because it's light, it's fast, and it's also pretty stiff. So this is my preferred material, but I didn't move into Polypro until I've been hooping for a couple of years. So everybody's hoop journey is their own. I'm not saying that you need to wait to get a Polypro hoop. I actually find that a lot of my hoop dance students who are just starting off have a little bit of a hoop arsenal. So they'll have hoops that they practice and get a really good foundation for their on-body moves. And then they also have hoops that they'll use like Polypro to drill their off-body hoops, because these are a little easier on the hands too, for your hand spins, isolations, those sorts of moves. Polypro also comes in different thicknesses. So what's interesting about this is that the thickest in the Polypro realm is actually the skinniest in the PE realm. So if I hold the 1/2 inch up to my 3/4 inch Polypro, and again, different materials, they call it different, they describe it differently, even though they look and feel kind of similar. So this is why there is so much confusion when it comes to hoop sizing, and why I feel like this video is so very important. So these look the same, okay, but they perform a little differently. This is also a more expensive tubing, the Polypro. So Polypro 3/4. We also have Polypro in 5/8. And as we get into these little tiny hoops, you gotta understand that we're talking about a different style of hooping. A lot of times people that are really into the off-body tech, I'll show you, again, this is gonna move super fast. You can do a lot of those ninja moves too with these light hoops, but watch what happens when I try to hoop on the body with this 23-inch hoop. I've been hooping for 14 years, okay? And I get into this 23-inch Polypro hoop, and I have to work so hard and constantly spin in circles to keep that thing going for on body. But it works really great for off body tricks and flow. So that's what I mean by different hoops work for different styles of hooping. And I hope this helps to explain the difference in the handmade realm of hula hoops. We've talked about PE, we've talked a little bit about HDPE, we've talked about Polypro, and it's really important to also know that diameter matters so much. So as we get into small diameters and lightweight tubing, we get speed, all right? When we go bigger diameters and some of those heavier weight materials like the 100 PSI and the 160 PSI, we're getting a slow groove, which is gonna help us learn, especially for on-body movement, all right? So, as you can see, there is a whole entire world of possibilities when it comes to handcrafted hula hoops, even more on the floor. Not only do we have a whole range of different options available in terms of the material itself, we also have a whole range of possibilities in terms of how the hoop looks and the different styles and aesthetics of it. So pretty much the sky's the limit in terms of handcrafted hoops, and there's a hoop out there for everybody. And I can tell you, in my almost 14 years of teaching, I have never, knock on wood, never had anybody come through my class who wasn't able to successfully hula hoop, at least on their waist, by the end of my class. So it's all about sizing, guys. You want to make sure you're in the right size hoop. Now for the part of my video that might be a little controversial, because people have opinions on things, and all I ask is that you keep the comments kind. I want to create a safe space on my YouTube channel, so if you have a disagreeing opinion that does not align with mine, feel free to share it, but also be respectful. As a friendly reminder, I am the creator of the only hula hoop fitness program approved by the American Council on Exercise, which is considered the authority on fitness. I've been teaching this art form for almost 14 years, and I'm very passionate about this because I'm big on injury prevention. This isn't about just driving traffic and sales to my hula hoop shop on Etsy or to my friends' shops who also teach hula hoop fitness and who have their own businesses as well. This is more about safety and making sure that people are set up for success. I am a firm believer in this art form. It has changed my life and a lot of my friends' lives in very positive ways. It can be a movement meditation, and I want to make sure that you are set up for success. So when I get into this next part, I just wanted to kind of preface it by telling you why I care so much. I don't want to see you get injured, and I want to see you become a really happy, healthy hoop dancer who loves the craft as much as I do. All right, so we're going to talk about weighted hoops. And these are the hoops that you might find in the sports stores, that you might find on Amazon, that are in the $50 range a lot of the time, and marketed as fitness hoops or weight loss hoops. A quick little hoop history on this. These started to come out after our community made hoop dance popular. So this is still an emerging art form. I know that there are lots of viral hula hoop videos on YouTube, on TikTok, on all different platforms where you see hoopers doing amazing tricks. And these fitness companies started to jump on board wanting to sell a product, mass producing these products in China. And the intention was strictly sales, not your comfort, and not your ability when it comes to using these things. So that's when the term weighted hoop started to become popular. I'm not going to spend much more time talking about this because I've actually written an extensive article along with a bunch of hoop history that I'm going to link in the comments. You can read that article at your convenience and let me know what you think. Okay, so I've got a variety of weighted fitness hoops with me today. And they are a variety. I think the lightest one I have here is 3 pounds, and the heaviest one I have is 4 pounds. One of them is 3.5 pounds. They're also a bit different. This one is a skinnier material, as you can see. It's not as thick as these other ones. One of these hoops also has ridges on the inside, those waves, as you can see, those little bumps, which are marketed as a massage. And then this other one is a bit more basic. They market it as, you know, being able to remove pieces of it to make the hoop smaller if you want, which is also a bad idea because these things are so heavy. And like I said before, heavy and small diameter, not a good combination for anyone ever for any reason. All right, so let's talk about these. I'm gonna start with the one with the waves. And this one is the hoop that weighs 2.5 pounds, which is actually not terrible. You know, a 2.5 pound hoop, I don't really recommend anything over 2 pounds, but it could be worse, and it is gonna be worse, and I'm gonna talk about it in a second with these other hoops. All right, so this one, I'm just gonna go ahead and start spinning on my waist. The thing about anything mass produced is that you really don't have a lot of customization in terms of the diameter. You can take out pieces of this hoop and make it smaller, but again, we don't want anything that's heavy and small. It just doesn't work well. And there's not a whole lot you can do with it because it's gonna move fast and feel awkward. This one right now, it doesn't feel terrible, to be honest with you. It's about 2.5 pounds, but the problem with this is that what doesn't come with these mass-produced hoops is also instructions. People don't realize that with something very heavy like this, it is so vital that you hoop in both directions. You have to hoop in both directions regardless of what hoop you're using because this is what keeps us balanced, working muscles on both sides of the body, and it also prevents injury. But the thing about this hoop, I can tell you, all right, even after just a couple moments, less than a minute of hooping, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable. My abs are engaged, which is a good thing, but the problem is these waves are digging into my body, and I can tell you if I were to do this for 30 minutes, I guarantee I would have bruising. And hooping is supposed to be fun and not painful. All right, so this is awkward, to be honest with you. Also, you're very, very limited with these hoops. Sure, you can put on this hoop and maybe, you know, put something on the TV and you think you're getting a really great ab workout, but the challenge is there's really not much else you can do with these. Maybe you can walk around a little bit, move forward, move back, move to the side, but I don't think things like shoulder hooping, let's try it, leg hooping. Yeah, this is bad because this right here is a problem, okay? That's digging into my legs. It's putting my knees in a funky knee knocking position that does not feel good. I'm not going to continue doing it because I don't want to get injured. And I don't want you to get injured. Same thing with shoulder hooping on something like this. These ridges, they're a problem. They're hitting my chest and my back in really strange ways, and it doesn't feel good. So if you want to learn tricks with hula hooping, and if you want to do anything other than hula hooping on your waist, then these weighted hoops are not a great option. The ridges are weird, the waves are strange, and I can tell you with time, there's no question I would be bruised up on this thing. I'm also going to share some of the comments that came through in the hoop dance community group that I was telling you about. I'm the admin of a group that's all about teaching the art of hoop dance, and there's a couple thousand people in that group that are all hoop dance fitness instructors, and we were chatting about these weighted hoops, and I'm going to share some comments here so you can check out what my other instructors have to say, because this isn't my opinion alone, I promise. All right, now we're in the this hoop is heavier than the one that I just grabbed. This is about 3 pounds, and this one doesn't have the waves in it. But the problem still remains that we are spinning and revolving only in one direction with a hoop that's quite heavy, and with too much time spinning in one direction, you definitely can get injured with this thing. Even if I go to change directions though, check this out. Because it's so heavy and because it's like pulling my body in this way, if I go to change directions, this twisting motion on my brake, which is how we move into our directional changes, it pulls my shoulder back too, and it strains my lower back even when I'm coming into my directional change. And like I said before, you have to change directions, especially when working with these heavy hoops, because this is what is going to work muscles on both sides of the body, keep you balanced, and also prevent injury. But again, injury prevention, you don't want something that's too heavy. And I would say if somebody is very slender using this hoop, it's only a matter of time before they get hurt, honestly. All right, now let's talk about this stupid thing. This hoop makes me angry because this thing is metal. This is steel on the inside. I don't know if you can tell, but there's like a foam covering over a steel hoop. This thing is very heavy. It might not look like it because like it's a bigger diameter, but there's a lot of weight on this thing and it is made of metal. This is also one of those hoops with buttons on it where they tell you you can remove pieces and make it smaller. What are you gonna do with a small, heavy hoop? I don't know. All right, so this thing I'm almost hesitant to even use. I will tell you, if you try to do any tricks with this, there's a possibility you could hit yourself, and hitting yourself with a steel hoop doesn't feel good, all right? There's no reason anybody needs one of these hoops. There's no reason anybody needs to spend $50 on a mass-produced hoop when you can shop small, you can support a small business, and you can also get something handmade and customized for you and your needs. So don't buy one of these. Just don't do it. There's no reason to do it. These weighted fitness hoops are problematic. The only thing that they might be good for would be maybe the 2.5 pound one. Hula hooping on your waist for 15 minutes at a time and making sure you're using both directions. But if you want to actually learn how to hoop dance, this is not what you want to get, all right? Moving on to the other end of the spectrum, we're going to talk about the store-bought light flimsy hoops next. Now it's time to talk about the store-bought kids hoops. But before I talk about these flimsy plastic ones that you find in pretty much every Walmart and Target these days, I want to talk about the old school hula hoops. These are made by Whammo, and this is what started the whole hula hoop craze in the 1950s. And these two hoops that I have with me right now are actually vintage original Whammo hula hoops, which are way better than the ones that you find in stores today. There's a reason why the hula hoop craze started with these things, because the material is actually pretty decent and they're fun, and they do have that swish swish motion that people like. So here, let's go ahead and do it. Do you hear the swish swish, right? I don't hate these, but I will say, getting your hands on some original Whammos might be a little bit challenging because I think these are collector's items now. If you have one in your garage still, that's great. Hang on to it. If you don't want it, I'll buy it from you because these aren't terrible, honestly. Yeah, they're lightweight though. If you're an adult beginner, these are gonna be a challenge. But the old Whammos, the ones from the 50s, and probably the 60s too, if you have one of these vintage ones, hang on to it. It would be fun for the kids for sure. And I do think they're a collector's item, and the materials they used back in the day are way better than the cheap plastic crap that they use now. So yay for old vintage Whammos that started the whole hoop dance revolution. Boo for the plastic hoops that you find in stores today. So these are not vintage Whammos. These are crappy, flimsy junk hoops, to be honest with you. Yeah, you've got that swish on the inside of some of them. I think you can hear that. But the problem with these, well, I'll just let it speak for itself. Do you see that kink? This is gonna happen, I mean, like pretty much immediately. Whenever I do events, and sometimes the DJs will come and they'll have a bunch of these little hoops laying around, by the end of the event, most of them are kinks like this. So this material is just really bad. It's lightweight, it's crap. Honestly, you could buy these hoops for your kids, or you could invest in one that's a few bucks more that's gonna last you for years to come. So I don't really know if there's a whole lot more to say about these. I'll go ahead and try them for you guys. Again, diameter matters so much, right? So this smaller one is gonna be way harder than this one that's a little bigger, but I don't know, it's also kinked, so it might not be so great either. But the problem also when you put water, sand, or beads in the hoop is it can really skew the rotation. A couple little beads, not so much, but when people start to add water to their hoops, that's also a problem because it's gonna mess with your directional changes. And even these little beads, you get a little bit of an awkward kind of feeling when you go to switch directions. So yeah, this thing is super light. It's not impossible to use, but you know, you can buy 15 of these a year for your kid, or you could buy one decent one and not have to replace them constantly. Let's try this just for giggles. This hoop is tiny, it's lightweight, there's nothing on the inside. Quite frankly, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to do it. It's super, super light. So yeah, I mean, if you want to just throw your money down the drain, then you can buy these, but they're not going to support you long term. I mean, they're kind of fun. They're so light, but they're not. They're just, the material is super flimsy, so there's not a whole lot you can see. Oh, see, I just kinked it. Perfect example of a crap product. That's the problem. They kink and they break so easy. I did not mean to break that just now. That literally just happened. So, case in point, right? Cheap, you get what you pay for. So, cheap material, poorly made hoop, it's not gonna last long. I know this was a really long video, and I hope you guys found it helpful. Thank you for taking the time to watch. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, I've got some strong opinions on all of this because this is my full-time job, and I get these questions from people all the time, so I wanted to invest the appropriate amount of time and energy discussing it with you. And as always, let me know if you have questions. So I'm back at another one of the locations where I teach because I just have a bit more information to share, and I realize this video is turning out to be about 30 minutes long. There's just so much to say as it relates to hoop sizing and injury prevention, and I have a couple more things I want to share with you guys. So I think, you know, the one thing I wanted to mention, if you do have one of the weighted hoops that we've talked about, the ones that I don't recommend, the most important thing is to listen to your body if you're using it. So I just want you to know you're not going to go to like hula hoop hell if you've got one of these weighted hoops in the 3 to 5 pound range. But the thing that I really want to emphasize is that it's incredibly important for you to listen to your body. Probably a good idea to consult with a physician or a doctor before beginning exercise with that equipment. Also, if you are hooping with one of those weighted hula hoops, I would really limit it to the waist and make sure that you are practicing both directions. I can't stress that enough. You've got to be practicing on both sides because this is what's going to help to prevent injury, especially with really heavy equipment like that. But with that said, I realize that some people might not like what I have to share as it relates to these really heavy hoops, so I also wanted to give you some feedback from other hoop dance teachers in our community. So there have been a number of hula hoop fitness programs that have popped up over the years, some of which have used the weighted hoops that we're talking about, the ones that I'm not recommending, and those programs don't exist today. I'm not going to speak badly about any of those organizations, those fitness programs, but I would encourage you to do a little research and digging on your own if you want to learn more about them and maybe why they weren't successful. On the flip side, there are a lot of training programs aside from my own. Hula Fit is mine, but then there's also Hoop Yogini, and there's Emma Kenna's program, there's Body Hoops. There's a lot of different hoop fitness programs that exist using handmade hoops, and those are still alive and well, and I think there's a reason for this. I should also mention that I am the admin of the Hoop Dance Teachers Group. I mentioned that earlier, and I wanted to share some of the comments about the weighted hoops from the other teachers. So this isn't just my opinion alone. This is kind of a shared, agreed upon conclusion that we've come to in the global hoop dance teachers world. So Jenny says, I've been teaching hoop dance and hoop fitness classes for about 15 years now. I have my fitness theory and physiology, my strength training and ACE personal training among a bunch of other fitness and health and wellness workshops and programs. What I have learned from my experience working with physiotherapists and people who work in the industry of physical health is no one should use a weighted hoop over 1.5 pounds. Weighted hoops can cause damage to a vertebrae, can cause damage to your kidneys, can cause pain and bruising to your ribs. I cringe when I see weighted hoops online, especially in the 5-pound range. And throughout my time as an instructor, whenever anybody has requested a weighted hoop from me or asked if they should buy one, I boldly tell them no and explain why. So same kind of idea that I'm sharing here. Another piece of feedback from a very long time hooper, very prevalent in our community, who's been at it for longer than me. Her name is Jackie. She says, the human spine is designed to carry weight from the top down, like women in Africa who support massive clay jugs of water on their heads for great distances with perfect posture, but never from the side, especially with a rotating object, because centrifugal force means the pull of a weighted hoop is exponentially greater when it's in motion. The trainer plus fitness expert who consulted me on my Hypnotica curriculum back in the day used to put it this way: imagine a tall stack of skinny soup cans that balance perfectly one on top of the other. Now imagine taking a baseball bat to one of them. That's what a heavy hoop does to the spine. That's a pretty intense visual, right? So I think that it's really important to consider these ideas, these points of view that are not just my own, but veterans in the hoop dance world that are aligning with the same information that I am sharing with you guys today. I also want to tell you that with a weighted hula hoop, you are very limited in terms of what you can do when it comes to overall fitness. And I'm going to give you some examples of some of the things that you actually are missing out on using one of the weighted hoops. So, for example, let me get up and show you. One of the things that we do a ton of in our classes is jumps. Everybody knows jump roping is really great, and that's something that we do often to increase the heart rate, build cardiovascular endurance. There's a multitude of jumps that we can do in hoop dance. But if you have one of these super heavy hoops, you're losing out on all of that, okay? Another thing is, I mentioned earlier, the isolations. This is an awesome move for strength training. And yeah, sometimes we might even go up to a hoop that's 1.5 pounds. And this is all you're ever gonna need for this exercise. This is a workout, especially when we start to add our squats, right? So in the realm of hula hoop fitness, we have to also protect our hands. And when we're doing a move like this, it's not going to feel very good with a super heavy hoop. As you can see, I'm already getting my heart rate up just with those 2 little exercises, right? Then we also have things that help to assist with coordination and control. For example, continuous tosses. This is something, any kind of off-body handspins, we're not going to recommend with a really heavy hoop. So you're losing out on all of this stuff. And really, the only thing that the super heavy hoops might be good for in very small amounts of time are waist hooping, all right? So most importantly, if you do have one of these and you love it, just please listen to your body. If you're noticing bruising, if you're noticing lower back pain, take a break, put it away, put it to the side. And if you're considering buying a hoop for the first time, the main thing that I'm trying to get across here is you could spend less money and get something totally customized to you. So thank you so much for spending the time with me, for listening to what I have to say, and I wish you guys the best in your hula hoop journey. Just remember that you know, we want to set you up for success. This is a really beautiful art form, and I'm not saying that you have to, like, you know, become a fire dancer with hula hoops or do the most advanced tricks. It's not about how good you are, but it is about doing it safely. And if you want to get into the benefits of movement meditation and all of the wonderful things that hoop dance has to offer, consider handmade versus weighted. And if you could work with me to help drop that terminology, let's ditch the whole term weighted hoops. Let's call them fitness hoops, handmade hoops, custom hoops. Any of those things would be better than weighted. So no more weighted hoops. All right, guys, thank you so much again. If you'd like to learn more about me and my programs, check out Hula Fit, HOOLA-fit.com or hulamonsters.com. I have online classes. You can also check out the Etsy shop, hulamonsters.etsy.com. And like I said, message me. Tell me your height. Tell me your experience. Tell me what you want to do with the hoop, and I will make a recommendation for you. Thanks again, you guys. Happy hooping. Until next time.